All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the second official episode of my new Media from the Heart podcast. And it's so exciting. I really wanted to do something special that was a little bit different than just writing interviews. I wanted to be able to bring people on that you've seen some of these people either acting or writing or maybe behind the scenes. And then we also have a virtual audience that we'll hear from later. We have a really nice sized virtual audience. And I'm so grateful that everybody's able to be here. But today we have a very special guest. I got the opportunity to officially meet her in person back in July. And so Karen Schaler is our very, very special guest. She is a writer. She writes books. She writes scripts for movies. You might know her. I want to let her tell her story, get a little bit of a backstory because some people may not be aware of her. But this woman is absolutely one of the most incredible writers I have ever had the opportunity to meet. I always loved her, but then when I got the opportunity to meet her this summer, it just made all the difference. I mean, I just could not believe we got to meet, and then my daughter Martha was also there. So actually, the three of us were going around. This woman had me going on like a treasure hunt and kept giving me a hard time because I was supposed to find this or I was supposed to find like something that was new, and she and my daughter were both saying, "No, that's not good enough. You got to keep finding something else. You got to keep looking."
Hey, we were just challenging you, Ruth. We were challenging you to be your best self. I'll have to tell everybody what we were talking about.
Yes,
I started doing it, during the pandemic, we all started doing walks, right? I mean, I know a lot of people did if you could, but I find I'm always on my phone or I'm always not in the moment. So I started challenging myself that every time I walk, I have to find like 3 new things, and that way I have to look for something new that I haven't seen or something unique. And I don't remember if we picked a theme. We might have, sometimes you pick a theme, like it has to start with the letter B or. So we were walking and I said, let's do this. And she would pick like the thing right in front. And me and her daughter, Martha, are like, no, that's way too easy, Ruth. We know you're much more creative than that. We gave her a hard time. And I want to say before we start, it was a true pleasure meeting Ruth and her daughter, because Ruth supports so many actors behind the scenes, what you just heard her talk about, and writers. And from the moment that I wrote my very, first stories, she found me, she profiled my story. She gave me a voice with a lot of you that I hadn't met yet. And I mean, bless her heart, she is amazing. And that's why when she says, do you want to do this a day before Christmas, when most of us are busy little elves, I would do it on Christmas Day for Ruth, because she's that special. I believe in you that much. And if you guys even know her from writing or personally, you know how special she is. And so I think that's what it's all about. But I adore you. I'm giving you a virtual hug, Ruth.
Oh. Karen, thank you. That really means a lot. So thank you so much. So Karen, I know I've had the opportunity to interview you more than once, and we've met, and so I know a lot of things about you. But why don't you give us just a brief synopsis of what people might know you for, or what you've done? If you could just give us a short bio, maybe, of who you are, so people can know.
Absolutely. Oh, sure. You know me, Ruth. That's going to be hard. No, I'm kidding. I was part of my bio. I was a news reporter, and my family still doesn't believe that I can tell a story in a minute and a half, because that's how much you'd get. You'd be all day out on a story, and when you're live at 5 o'clock, those reporters, and a minute and a half, to give you an idea, most people read 3 words a second. So it's 90 words. And I've just probably said 150 right there, and so it was always a challenge. So in the TV world, if I was doing a report, I could do it very fast. But when I get to just chat, I tend to be a little chatty. But I always say, at least I'm storytelling, and that's what I do for a living. But so my background, I gave a little bit away, is that I started as a TV news reporter, and I wanted to tell people stories. And, I was very ambitious when I was young. And so I ended up, wanting that lead story. That first story a night was considered the most important. But if you guys know, what the lead story is, usually the sad story or the hard. They used to say, if it leads or if it bleeds, it leads. So unfortunately, I became what was known as like a crime reporter, an investigative reporter, undercover, because those big stories were usually not very happy, positive, uplifting stories. But They were stories that needed to be told. So I was very passionate about that. I went all the way to, I worked in a lot of small markets. I went all the way to CNN. I was a White House correspondent. Then I wanted a little bit of a quality of life. I came to Scottsdale, Arizona, and then I decided I wanted to be embedded with an Apache helicopter unit in Afghanistan because I wanted to tell the soldier stories. I'd been an embedded war correspondent in Bosnia in the 90s. And so really my background is war correspondent, crime reporter, left that and wanted to do more inspiring, empowering stories. Travel was my therapy. So I started my TV segments called Travel Therapy. Where do you need to go? I've been doing that about 10, 12 years now. Oh my goodness. See, COVID, I keep losing those 2 years, I feel like, but they aired during in New York, like Good Morning America, Live with Kelly and Ryan, Rachel Ray. They've been on at airports. And it was during a time that I was doing my travel show that I had a minor surgery and I couldn't travel for a couple of weeks. It was right at the holidays. And I'm like, wait, I don't know what to do if I'm not working. And I'd always wanted to write a Hallmark movie. I mean, that was like something I watched them. They were my therapy when I did all those difficult stories. And I always wanted to. And I thought, okay, I'm a reporter. I can do this. So I watched it. And a lot of people have quoted me because I've said, I literally had a notepad, like old school. I'm like, okay, at 18 minutes, that's always where the first act break. This is how many act breaks. This is when they meet. They always meet in the first 5 minutes. Oh, wait, these 4 movies, they met in the first 2 minutes, the love interest. So I had all of this research. And then I decided to write my own. And then I started researching, well, I don't have an agent or know anyone in Hollywood. So I started researching people that made movies that I admired and respected because, there's so many on Hallmark. But, you have favorites, right? Where maybe you connect a little more with one than the other. And so I found somebody and they're like, we want to buy this, great, but we really need a royal Christmas story. Do you have one of those? And I always say, like any good writer, absolutely. And I absolutely did not, so the irony was, as a travel reporter, remember, I had been in the UK and I had been invited to the Isle of Anglesey, which is in Wales. And it's where Prince William and Kate lived when he was in the Royal Air Force. And the tourism people, they had now gone back, into London to live. This is before the kids, of course, very early on. And they invited me to come and say, ooh, let's do a story, Americans Love Royals, and walk in the footsteps of Will and Kate. And I said, okay, great. So I go there, I'm with tourism, but no one in this little town will talk to me because they're so protective, as they should be, because we've seen what the bad paparazzi type people do. And you think I'd be mad because I'm like, wait, I'm one of you. I'm here to promote you. I'm with your tourism people. I've been invited. But I actually really respected them and it really touched my heart and that stayed with me, how protective they was. I mean, they were of the family and I thought that was great. So now fast forward back to the producer. Do you have a royal story? He's like, watch all the ones. We've done a million of them and come up with a title that's different and see what you can do. And so, in a couple weeks, I wrote one and sent it in. And we did the process of, doing notes, and we can talk about that if there's interest in that kind of behind the scenes things. But when we did that, I sent it in and thinking it's going to Hallmark, but it ended up, as some people know, on Netflix as Netflix's very first original Christmas movie. They were airing other people's, but this was the first one that Netflix was going to own. So it got a lot of buzz. But then the Netflix audience, the very young audience, was going, what is this cheesy, silly little movie? The Hallmark audience found it because, we'll find it, right? We'll find a good Christmas movie no matter where you put it. But this younger audience that maybe had never watched a Hallmark movie they were just kind of, picking on it and teasing about it, but they were watching it and they decided they loved it. And that started also Netflix going, wait a minute, there's a whole generation that will like clean, uplifting, feel good type movies. And we started seeing more romantic comedies and all of that. But now I'll go fast, Ruth, I promise. That was just the background, so they have good questions to ask me, right? But now it goes really fast because that's sort of how it went in my career. So it's 2017, the Netflix A Christmas Prince aired in November. Then at the end of December, I got the call. I had written a movie called Christmas Camp that I thought would go to Netflix because it had an ensemble cast, and that's usually more expensive. And I thought, okay, but what wouldn't you know, it was ending up on Hallmark. And so I got the call that Hallmark wanted the movie. I was super excited. So while we were doing that, all of a sudden Lifetime called and wanted me to come in, and they had Toni Braxton, our legendary Toni Braxton, was going to be in a Christmas movie and executive producing it. And they were taking what they call pitches from writers. I was still a baby writer. I didn't really know what any of that meant. I thought I was coming in because I had written another script and they were buying that. And my person that was kind of helping me at the time was like, yeah, just go in and talk to them. They want to buy your other script. I'm like, okay. So anyway, next thing you know, they said Toni wanted to be Scrooge. That was it. It was going to be loosely based on A Christmas Carol, and how many of those we've seen. But they said she wanted to be really pretty and she wanted to look good in clothes, because Toni Braxton, of course, I would too. But I'm like, you do know the Scrooge is miserly and doesn't wear nice clothes and doesn't spend money. So I mean, I knew I was going to have to really very lightly and be inspired. And so that happened all at the same time. So Christmas Prince, Christmas Camp, Every Day is Christmas, which is my Toni Braxton movie. And then at the same time, I got a 3-book deal with HarperCollins. And that's because I realized when I wrote movies, they get changed a lot, because I was new at this. And there's such a collaboration. There's a million fingers that go into the pie, which is good because they get elevated. They definitely get changed. So if you're precious about your story, which I was at the beginning, because who isn't, right? It's your first story. On Christmas Camp, I'm like, well, I want it told the way I want it told. And the only way that's going to happen is if I wrote a book. But what a blessing, right? I was able to then, now I'm writing books and movies at the same time. So we are up to, in the last 4 years, 5 movies and 5 novels. And my latest, because I have to, do my shameless plug, is A Royal Christmas Fairy Tale, because it's the first royal romance I wrote since A Christmas Prince. And it was a story that was in my head. It's different characters, but they say it won't let go, write it. And I did write something, else before it. And that's my Mamma Mia Meets the Bachelorette, that I wrote last year. But at the end of the day, I had to write this one back to the royal, back to a royal themed. I think in the COVID, right in the middle of everything, I wanted to live in the world of Talvania that I created. I didn't want to live in the COVID world. I wanted to be in an imaginary world. And I'm sure when we talk about writing, that's a big part of it. We write because we want to live in that world. At least I know I do. So that is a long first answer, but that'll be my longest answer, I promise. But that's a little bit of my background of where we're at right now. So yay.
No, that's great. And what I love is I actually learned things because you know how it is that when we get asked these questions about, well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You always find that you end up putting in details. Maybe you didn't tell the story that way this time or whatever. So it was really, I love the fact that you spent some time even telling us more about your reporting days, because I know we've touched on that a little bit, but I really enjoyed that. And I happen to be watching the chat, and you have some incredible admirers in our virtual audience. I just want to bring up that Timmy says that she got a chance to meet you in Nashville. So that was.
Timmy, I have to see all the people here. Timmy, where are you? I have to put in gallery. Just a second. Yeah. Where's my Timmy? There you are. Oh, hi. So I had it on where I was big.
Will you bring her on for
nice
a minute?
To see you.
I'll bring her on for a minute. And actually, Timmy, if you want to, go ahead.
Hi,
yeah, I am muted. Thank you. Hi.
Merry Christmas. It's so good to see you. I've met you at RomaDrama.
Yes, we have met. It was really lovely.
Oh, it was lovely to see you. Oh my goodness. And Merry Christmas. Where are you coming to us from today?
At the moment, I'm in New York, but I live in London, UK.
Yes, I remember that. I didn't know if you'd gone back there, but you're in Manhattan or New York proper?
No, just north of the city, about an hour outside.
Oh, I lived in New York until the pandemic for 14 years, right in the heart of the city on 72nd and Central Park. And this time of year is so magical and I miss it. I miss it so much, but I'm so glad to see you. Thanks for taking the time, Timmy, and all of you, because this is, Ruth is she is just a workaholic. She's a busy little elf, but I was like, that means the world to me. It's so good to see you. I look forward to getting your questions later. Thank you.
It's lovely to see you as well. I was really looking forward to this chat.
I'm so excited
listening to you.
Oh, thank you, Timmy. Yay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So yeah, it was great that she was able to stop by, and you have an admirer. I did not realize you have this incredible admirer now. I'm gonna put her on the spot because I know her, and she's lovely. This is Kat. Kat actually put in the chat that she has 3 of your books so far, and her favorite book, I guess, is The Christmas Prince. Is that right? Is that what you were saying was your favorite book? I think, Kat, is that right? Yeah. So.
Oh, that's a movie though. I haven't written that book yet though.
Oh, okay.
The movie.
Okay, yeah. That's what you meant. Okay, yeah, right. And so I just wanted to bring her, because Kat, she was one of the first people to jump at this once I posted. I didn't realize she was such a huge fan of your work.
Oh, Kat, thank you.
So,
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I just finished Christmas camp, I think like last week, and I just got Christmas camp ready right after I have Christmas Ever After. So I'm trying to finish that book, moving on to the Christmas ready. So I'm just like really huge. I was kind of like bummed when RomaDrama got postponed. I was
Me
like,
too.
okay, I got to save all the books for summertime, so I'm really thrilled to meet you eventually.
Oh, I can't wait to meet you, Kat. First of all, thank you so much for getting the books. And when I wrote Christmas Camp Wedding, we were hoping to film the Hallmark movie. You always hope, right, that you're going to be able to continue the story. And I've had a lot of people ask if I could at least do the audiobook, but HarperCollins, controls those rights about it. But you are a true fan. You've gone through those. Now, wait, do you have Finding Christmas? I think there's the one you're missing. I don't have the book. You should see when I do like talks, I have these big, huge poster boards. So I'm going to show it to you. So, and by the way,
I think I saw one of those posters. I'm still shopping. I'm still looking for all of the books and making sure I have everything.
I know. I want to show you. I mean, it's a huge board. Are you ready? And first of all, I want you all to know, and we can talk about this after. A lot of people think this is a screen. This is actually a 10-foot set, 10 foot by 10 foot in my living room. I mean, when I was in Manhattan, I didn't even have a 10-foot living room. I don't even think I had a 10-foot apartment. It was so tiny. But it is here, and I put it up in July because I start doing Christmas in July things, and it's not easy to put up and put down. So I don't mind. I mean, basically the TV is over here, and this is the other side of my living room. But Kat, this is because I was just speaking on this. Let me see if I can do it. This is a huge version of Finding Christmas. Doo-doo, doo-doo. And if you read the story that I have, if you follow me
on my list, I'm getting that one very soon.
Well, an insider secret, it was actually optioned by Hallmark, and it was about to be made, and then the pandemic hit. So I think it will not be now. It's going to be back in the mix. So we'll find it another home. But it's one of my favorites because my dad inspired it. It has a scavenger hunt, and I'll just tell you guys really quick that it is a one-liner quick. So I thought instead of the Scroogey, girl, usually the girl needs some Christmas spirit, right? We have to have one or the other. Somebody needs Christmas spirit. You're not going to find a movie where you don't have one of them, the boy or the girl. And so this time I wanted the girl to have so much Christmas spirit. Like she's almost over the top with Christmas, but her boyfriend's a lawyer. He's a workaholic. He's the Scroogey one. So she plans this amazing, romantic, very creative scavenger hunt. And so the first clue, they're in New York City, and the first clue he finally has time off, and it's going to take him to all these magical places, and they land in this Christmas town together where she's planned these events, and they're going to connect through Christmas. Only when she takes it to the doorman, because this happened in my building in New York, if you've ever been in New York or a doorman building, they get so many packages at Christmas. So he gets all these packages and he puts the sticky of the right address, the right name on it, but it falls to the ground. And later he gets them mixed up. So the wrong guy gets the clue and the wrong guy starts following the clues and shows up instead. So that's why it's like, is the wrong guy really Mr. Right? And since y'all know movies, you could probably figure it out. But I don't want to say, because my books sometimes have twists. They're not always, exactly like you might think. So Kat, yay. It's so nice to meet you. I can't wait to meet you in person again. We'll do RomaDrama. I was heartbroken about that. I was just in Palm Springs area, Indian Hills, because I do these Christmas camps where I take my Christmas camp Hallmark movie and the books and I bring them to life, where I partner with hotels and I take all the experiences. So you can come and do stargazing like we did in the book. We do the cookies that are in the book because all my books have recipes and things like that. And we had them 2 years in a row. They were phenomenal, but then COVID hit. So we're hoping next year I can do them again. So I was just scouting hotels. If you're on my Facebook, you'll see I'm posting a bunch of different hotels and really fun. I don't know if you even know this, Ruth, because you've been so busy. So when I went to Indian Wells, which is a community, so fantastic, it's in the greater Palm Springs area, they just hosted The Bachelorette, the one that just had the finale this week with Michelle. So they hosted that. So they decided to put me in that hotel, that resort, and it's called the Renaissance Esmeralda Resort and Spa. So it's just, you can imagine, they hosted The Bachelorette. So it's amazing, very romantic, beautiful. And I'm looking at doing a Christmas camp there. So then they put me in this amazing suite because it's kind of quiet right before Christmas. And they wanted me to get good video and, things so I could consider having a Christmas camp. And they said that Michelle was in one just like mine. So I was pretty excited to be there. And then the finale was the day I got home. But then I heard the sad news about RomaDrama, although it was the right decision to make. Safety first for all of us. We have to protect all of you. I mean, of course, heartbreaking, but I want us to all go and be safe, which wasn't obviously possible. But I'm just over, and we don't want to bring up the C word in our happy conversation, but I want us all to be safe for the holidays. And it's been hard, so hard for so many of us. So, but thank you, Kat. Thanks for being here. Yay.
And, and it's interesting. I have been following your story. I've been following. And so, yes, I did know where you were staying. I've been looking at your photos. I've been seeing that. I have been.
How do you have time?
Because you just pop up in my feed, I guess, because they know that I want to see your posts, because sometimes they'll often pop up. And I guess because I've, you know how that is, social media, like I guess you've interacted. That's
they know.
They
know.
They're smart. So since you brought up this whole Christmas camp thing, let's just talk about, so I know that my introduction to you really was the Hallmark movie Christmas Camp, which I absolutely loved. I always felt like it was, because it was a Christmas in July premiere when it happened. And I always feel like it was one of those movies that was a little bit of a sleeper, as in a lot of people didn't see it at first. And then once people saw it, they were like, oh, we really like this movie. Where's it been? How did I miss it? It's like people are still just discovering.
Well, I can actually tell you, I'm interrupting only because a lot of people don't know this, because they're like, where did it go? But here's what was interesting. It was I can't speak on the producer side of it. I just remember when they did it, it was either Hallmark owns it or the producer, and there's licensing. There's a lot of stuff way above my pay grade to understand how this is done. But what I do know is that it was released as a movie in a movie theater. And so this did not come out as a traditional Hallmark movie on television. And so the year prior, it came out the Christmas of 2000, when it was supposed to come out, 2018, I got a call, a movie theater in Toronto, a huge movie theater, aired it first. So it had an international theater release. If it were to win an award, it would win an Oscar versus an Emmy, because it's considered a theatrical because it was released in theaters. So what happened is it was released in theaters. It aired one time on Hallmark, and that was for Christmas in July. It was the one that led Christmas in July, and it didn't run again. And it went right to DVD. And I believe they did put it on the Hallmark, what is it, Hallmark Now, the one that it's paid.
Yeah, Hallmark.
They did that they did that for a short amount of time, but I know that it's never been back in the rotation with the regular ones that you're all watching. So for instance, my Toni Braxton movie on Lifetime and Rediscovering Christmas on Lifetime, they were just on my birthday, right? Just like you see your favorite ones and they come up. So many people have not seen Christmas Camp. It wasn't a sleeper. It didn't really get the play because it had this international and DVD. And I don't know, I've talked to like directors and actors, and we all don't really know how or what, because again, that's, it's their movie, not ours. So some people have said maybe because it was a type of movie that could be theatrical and go to DVD and make money in a different kind of way, as people are looking at different models. So I take it as a compliment that I got to have a theater and a DVD and get it to be on Hallmark, even if it was only once. But I am sad that it's not in the rotation, so more people could see it for sure. I hate to say, well, go buy the DVD. I don't like to do that. So I know you'll have to come to my Christmas camp, because at my Christmas camp we'll recreate everything, and that will be magical.
Well, and I think what was neat about Nashville, and of course will be neat when RomaDrama comes back this summer, as long as everything goes well. So the star of Christmas Camp, her father was at the RomaDrama in Nashville. And then I believe she was scheduled for the next RomaDrama. I know she was going to be at the one in January, which now has been postponed until June, which I'm assuming that means she's coming. But what was it?
Yes, I can. Well, let me just say real quick about that. We were trying to do panels. And so for those of you that don't know about RomaDrama, it's like I call it like Comic-Con, like, you know, you see those conventions, but for romance lovers. So it's so amazing. And it's an event that's been put on by the two founders, Sarah and Gabrielle, and they wanted to be able to bring fans to meet the stars that are in the Hallmark, Lifetime, and Netflix movies. And it's a really curated special event. And so you go, and not only do you get autographs, you can do one-on-one time, but she also wanted to bring in writers so we could have a full experience. So if you love these movies, you can listen in on a writer panel and find out how they're made and mix up different actors and hear about behind the scenes. And so you really kind of know the immersive experience. So Ruth hosted one of the panels that I did. She was fantastic. And we all talked about it. And I said, let's we brought in authors. So there's some authors that have written books that have been made into Hallmark movies. I actually wrote the Hallmark movie first and then wrote the book, which is completely backwards for Hollywood when I did Christmas camp. So this time they said, well, what do you want to do? Because we did a virtual Christmas camp. I mean, not virtual, but we did kind of a live one. And since this was right after the holidays, I said, wait, why don't we do a panel where we have the director of Christmas camp, Jeff Fisher, the star, Lillian Harrison, who of course is Gregory, did I say George? Oh my gosh, Gregory, I'm so sorry. Where did I even get that name? It must be a character I'm working on, but that's his daughter. And so she was a star. It was her first Hallmark movie. She did an amazing job. And so the panel is going to be the three of us. And then we're going to be able to talk about from the idea and writing it to it going to the director, how he gets on board, what he saw that he liked, what he needs to change for budget, to then hiring Lillian. What do you do as an actress? How do you get on board? How do you act in these things? Because they're shot in usually about 2 weeks to 2.5 weeks. They are shot really, really fast. And I've been on the sets and it's crazy. And we can talk about that if you guys are interested. But yes, so I just wanted to say that panel, I'm hoping everyone's schedule still intact. I'm just going to say where everyone is going to move heaven and earth to be there. And I know Gabrielle is even going to add more people now, because you give Gabrielle a day and that girl's going to add even better things if that's possible, because this one in January was going to be phenomenal. So I don't even know what's going to be in store for all of us coming up. If you give her a few more months, and that girl and Sarah, they're going to go crazy in a good way,
Oh, most definitely. No, I'm glad you said all that, because I was noticing all the people that had come on. So that makes it really fascinating. So for those who are thinking about RomaDrama when it's going to happen in June, and we're believing that the stars are all going to align and everything is going to be perfect for June for us to have a fantastic time in Florida. I mean, that's going to be amazing. That sounds like a panel I certainly would love to listen in on and be there, and because that just sounds so fascinating. Imagine having director, star, and writer all in one panel. I mean, well,
and the reason I came.
Go ahead. Yeah.
And the reason I came up with the idea was when, Gabrielle's like, what do we want to do that's special? And let's do something. And I thought, when I was a writer, I would have loved that. A lot of times the director will be on and I'll get to do like a Zoom, like I was sharing, before with the WGA, the Writers Guild. They'll bring on these top writers, right? I've learned so much. But we're silent. We don't get to ask questions. And we certainly don't see from the writers to what the director thinks when he gets the script and gets the notes, like cut out your sledding scene because we're shooting in July in upstate New York, it's 80 degrees and we don't have the budget for fake snow. Or, hey, let's take this. And then how does this star? When does she get the script? When does she resonate? How does she bring that character to life? I would like to know those answers. So I always try to do anything I do. I try to think like you, like, what would you all want? Like, that's why I love doing Q&A, because I'm like, we know I can chat, but I always want to know what you all want to know. So thank us again, Ruth, for bringing us all together.
Oh yeah, no, that's great. So I know that then for those who haven't maybe seen Christmas Camp, they might.
Oh, wait, I have to do a Christmas camp cheers with my cocoa.
Okay. Yeah, but for those who haven't seen it, and you're talking about like a Christmas camp, and that you did these Christmas camps in the hotel, and now you're looking at being able to do one next year. Tell us what they could possibly expect, like what Christmas camp, what the idea is behind doing an actual Christmas camp, and maybe what they might be able to look forward to for your next one.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for asking me that. When I wrote the Hallmark movie, And just a quick background of what it is about, because I know a lot of you probably haven't had a chance to read it, or we know watching it, like I said, is a little challenging, unless you got that DVD from Santa coming to you. But the Christmas Camp is about a girl who has a good heart, but she is an advertising exec, and all she does Christmas is think about work, 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 and getting a promotion. And she's getting a toy account, and her boss does not think she has the right Christmas spirit or heart to do that, but she wants it so bad. So he's like, all right, I'll send you to Christmas camp. You go to Christmas camp, and then if you graduate, because I literally have to check things off a list, then you can come back and pitch me, this account, and I might give you this promotion. So she goes off, typical, fast paced, thinking she can go really, really fast. And there's all these activities. And so what I did after I wrote this, I realized, like, today I'm go, go, go. I'm so busy tomorrow, prior to the holiday. So I always write little lessons that I need myself. And I thought, you know what? It's about relaxing and rebooting before the holidays so you can be your best self at the holidays. So I always say Christmas camp doesn't need to be held right now. It needs to be held in July. It needs to be held in October, November. And so what I wanted to do is to bring it to life. I saw a lot of people tweeting on the premiere, I wish there was a real Christmas camp. I wish there was a real one. And I'd already gotten the idea. I actually trademarked the idea before I sent the concept in to Hallmark. And I knew that I wanted to create it for real, because I fall in love with my ideas. I feel like there should be a real Christmas camp where we can go. And so the idea, so if you were to come, when we did it at the Phoenician, which was a resort here in Scottsdale, Arizona, and what we did is we brought so many of the story to life. But what's great is I'm always doing new movies and new novels. So every year, whatever the theme of the last story, or we bring them all in. So for instance, in 2019, Rediscovering Christmas was a really fun Lifetime movie, and there was a snowflake theme. So for that Christmas camp, we started bringing in snowflake type things. And then there's always recipes. So good example, I'll list like a bunch of activities. We have all my books have recipes in the back. You see the movies, there's always cookie making, right? We're always making cookies or brownies or candy or something yummy. And so in Christmas camp, we have the cookies made, but then I have a top pastry chef, and we're decorating. He's giving like culinary tips and things like that. We were talking about decorating and trimming the tree. We brought in a floral designer, and she gives all these tips that I learned so much from, and that you learn, and then wreaths and floral and how to do it affordably, how to go to Hobby Lobby, how to go to Michael's, how you can do things on a budget. And she makes different things, and you get your little cards before you go that we do, so you don't have to take notes. And you do all of that. We have cocktail mixology, where we have a unique Christmas camp. It's a champagne drink. We do it special toast. We also had a wine tasting, because the one we were doing was skewing towards spirits and culinary. We had Christmas camp massages that had frankincense and myrrh. We had Christmas camp games. We were going to do Christmas camp bingo, Christmas camp yoga to Christmas music. And so a day you come, and you can come for a day or 5 days or 10. We didn't do a hotel package, because some people maybe only want to come for 2 days, or that's what's in their budget. And so you check in, and there's this reception, and you get to meet me, and in your package, you get your, where was one? I just saw one, but it's like a bag, and it says Christmas camp, and you have a nice red bag. You get signed copies of the books, and then I'm signing them and all of that. And you get your itinerary of when you're there, and you get to go to everything. You can go to 1 or 2 things that speak to you. You can go to all of them. It's funny, the cookie one we did every day, because that was kind of one of the centerpieces, and somebody was coming from Nashville, Tennessee, just for the cookies. So we had to have it just in case it was a one-day guest. And I thought, well, okay. And I started seeing this. I go, what are you guys doing? You were at yesterday's cookie class, And they're like, we loved it. We had so much fun, because everyone's different. I'm at every one. So I'll start off and say, this is what I'm doing. This is the connection to the movie. And here's chef. And then it's up to you guys. So then you ask him, your direction could totally change. And one thing I did that was funny, I learned the second year. The first year I had a reception with me, and then people had so many questions. So we did a Christmas Karen chat, which is what we did at RomaDrama, where I basically get up and honestly do say it pretty short, who I am, and then just answer questions. And every day I did that for 10 days, and every day it was different, because different people came, even the same people came. One day it turned into a writing course. How do I write these? What advice would you give? What time of day do you write? Another one was about, being on set. How do you pitch this if you don't know anybody in Hollywood? There was always, what are the actors like? There was always different questions. So the idea of Christmas camp, I think we had 35 activities that we would rotate 6 or 7 a day. We, of course, aired Christmas camp, and we had a pajama party. We did Q&A after. So what I'm looking at right now, I was actually talking before COVID, I was talking to Germany. I was talking to a riverboat cruise down the Rhine where, you know, the German Christmas markets would be. I was talking to so many different people about even pop-ups. So maybe not a hotel stay, but going to different cities, kind of like RomaDrama, right? Where it'd be a convention and some of those activities would be there that you could take part in. And so we tried this year, but with COVID, it wasn't safe. I mean, that's why I completely support and am part of RomaDrama that we have to be safe and we have to do the right things. But I did just go to Indian Wells because they're looking at possibly doing some really special things at Christmas, and they wanted me to come and check out the properties and see what's going on. So fingers crossed, you guys, that, you know, I'm going to be able to do that. Fingers crossed.
Oh, that is just so exciting. I mean, I knew a lot of the things. I mean, I've looked at this before. My goodness, you've got, and you've got Kat jumped in the chat, and she is just like so excited. I'm just so
excited. Wait, I have to say one thing, and I'm interrupting. Yeah. For some reason, my computer that was fully charged is telling me I have a low battery. So let me just go and switch out. So I want you to chat with the guests. Yeah. I'm going to go off camera really quick.
Okay.
I'm just going to end, but but if I disappear, I can even have my phone. So you talk to the guests and figure out, I can still hear you, but I'm going to try to plug in really quick. You know, it's the holidays. Of course, this would happen.
Exactly. Okay.
And I can still answer questions if you'd like.
What's funny? Kat, I tell you, I can hardly wait for you and Kat to meet, because Kat is just like going. She thinks, she's also saying you're so funny. She's loving. She's loving this, and I agree. Yeah, Kat, wait till you meet her in person. It's going to be even better. And Timmy said she would definitely attend a Christmas event in Germany. I don't know how. So how many of you, just if you would raise your hand, how many of you would actually think would like to attend a Christmas camp? Now, don't think about the finances or the place, but if you were given the opportunity to attend a Christmas camp, how many of you would attend? Anybody? Let's just see. Let me see here. It looks like most of our
I'm hoping everybody would come.
I think there would be that. I think that it can be challenging to try to figure out, do I have the money to do it? Is it going to be in an area, can I do it? But I love the fact that so many of our guests really are invested, thinking this sounds like fun. And of course, who wouldn't want to meet Karen? I mean, you guys, seriously. Aww. The woman is she is, I knew that when I had the opportunity to meet her, there she's back.
I'm back.
I knew I had the opportunity to meet her. I knew it was going to be amazing because we've been having all these connections. But I mean, a Zoom cannot contain the absolute wonderment and amazement that this woman is. I mean, she's just bubbly. And when you say Christmas Karen, I mean, this woman embodies Christmas 365 days a year.
Oh, wait, Ruth, should we tell them the story about Christmas Karen, about the family?
Yes, please go for it. Please. Yeah.
Okay. So it's really short. I say that a lot. My friends go, oh boy, let's get the coffee. She said it was a short story. That's what everybody says. But this one is fun. And this was on a Today Show segment that they did about me. So I didn't name myself Christmas Karen. That would be weird and not cool. And there's that bad Karen out there in the world, and I am not that bad Karen. But I literally came by the name 100% honestly. The different media outlets gave it to me when I did a bunch of movies and books really fast. And I can't remember if it was Forbes or the Today Show, but they said Christmas Karen, and the Today Show put a little graphic of a little hat on me, during it. So that got dubbed, but it turned out because the Today Show found out that in my family name, a couple families back, is the last name is Day. And my great aunt was born on Christmas Day. And the family let the kids name her. And so the kids decided to name her Mary, M-E-R-R-Y, middle name Christmas, last name Day. So her legal name was Merry Christmas Day. And she ended up being in Ripley's, believe it or not. One of the very first editions that came out featured. And so if you watch the Today Show, if you go on my website, which is karenschaler.com, and you can see media and you can see different things in that Today Show, there's like a 5-minute segment about becoming Christmas Karen, and it shows Christmas camp too. It shows some of the different things. But so that is how I got my name.
That's awesome. That's really something. I remember when you told that story, and I still, every time you tell it, I feel like I'm hearing it for the first time.
Okay. Well, good. Then you're not bored. So that's a good thing.
Karen, okay, I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna say Karen Schaler and boring. That is like an oxymoron. Okay, those two words do not go together. Okay, it just doesn't. So I finally, 2021 was the year that I finally read a Karen Schaler book. She'd sent me books and I would look at them and I'd say, yes, I want to read that book and I'm going to make time for it, and then life would take over. Well, she was kind enough to send me her book, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to read one chapter every night, at least one chapter. I'm sorry. You can't just read one chapter of Karen's book.
And it was this one, right?
Yes,
it was this one, my latest?
Yes, your latest. Yes. That's
because you are behind. So I'm just
Yes, I know I'm behind. Oh, I know I'm behind. Good grief, I know I am, because I have the other ones. But I really considered picking those up, but I said, no, I want to read.
No, I like that you read the newest. No, because actually I'm so grateful. First of all, I'm like, Kat, how amazing is she to be able to read all of those? We're all so busy. So again, thank you, Kat. And I love it, Ruth, that you made the time and you read the most current one. That's important. So thank you.
Yes. And and Timmy said she's currently reading it. So and Timmy's always reading. That woman is reading. She's always reading. I love that she makes time for that. What I loved about this book is, you mentioned twists. There are twists in this book. I'd be thinking it was going to go one direction and it went another. But my favorite part of this book is the style that it was written in, because I've read all sorts of authors and I love authors. I love fiction. I love Christmas fiction. I love romances. I love those kinds of things. But from the very beginning, I was drawn into the story. I felt like I was watching a movie. And I know you say that you actually see it as a movie before you write, before you actually write it. And that comes across so clearly. And I just felt like I was watching this movie. And that's why when I say I would read a chapter before I go to bed and be like, no, I just got to the end of that chapter and I want to know what happens next. But it's 1 o'clock in the morning, so I probably need to go to bed instead of staying up and read another chapter. but it was hard sometimes.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. But I was so glad. It is by far. I have read several royal romances. I have read several. Yours is my favorite, most definitely.
Oh, thank you.
I absolutely
Thank
love
you.
it. And I'm not just saying that because you're on here. I really loved the way it was written. I love the characters. I felt like I could connect with the characters. And so I'm excited for when this does become a movie, because
Me too.
Now, if you could cast this movie, I know as writers, we don't usually get that chance to, if I know I haven't written a book yet, but imagining writing a book or screenplay or whatever, as the writer, you don't usually get the chance to say, I want so-and-so to be in this movie and cast it.
Not that I know of, at least not
Right.
not in my world.
Exactly.
But I'm sure there are some writers that have enough clout that could suggest. But even,
Right.
in the movie world, it's much different than TV. And if you're if you're running a show like a showrunner, then you do get to have say. But as a feature writer, meaning a movie, not usually. But although sometimes when you pitch, you can say, I see this actor because it helps them, have an idea for, like what you're thinking, like who and what have you. And I know what you're going to ask me, Ruth, because you asked me this. She was reading it to me, you guys. I'm outing her because she was reading and going, who would you cast?
Yes.
And I said, that's like asking for my favorite. I know it sounds crazy. I see the movie so clearly, and I see more who I wouldn't cast.
Oh,
But
okay.
there's a couple, I know, which is weird, but there's a couple people, but it depends on where it lands. Like, I would love to see it. I'm putting it out there as like an intention. Obviously, Netflix is a home. So Netflix would do a beautiful job, of course. But I also think Disney Plus could be such a great place for it, because there is the royal romance, that we do have that beautiful 11-year-old, our little princess, and we have our dog, our Blixen, which was spelled that way intentionally for anyone that's upset that it's not spelled like the real reindeer Blixen. There's a reason, because when I was little, I said Blixen, just like I spelled it, and that's why when somebody says like the reindeer, I say like the reindeer, but as in like similar, but not exact. But some people were, you didn't know how to spell it? And I'm like, no. But you got to be careful, right? People get into the story. I needed to have, in all honesty, if one person's confused, I should have added a line saying, this is how I said it. This is how she says it. So the viewer, see, I still say viewer. So the reader knew it was an intention, not. But yeah, I don't know. I am not going to answer that question until I know where it lands. But I promise you, Ruth, you'll be the first one when I know who, because Netflix, I would cast somebody much different than I would for a Disney Plus or a Hulu or an Amazon. When I look at, even it just really, it would really depend. But who would you cast? Because you read it. I'd love to know who you see.
I know that. Well, and I was probably thinking in the Hallmark world so much. I'm trying to remember because I know that there were. It's so hard. What I don't know if I necessarily have, by the time I got through the book, I don't know if I necessarily had in mind who it needed to be necessarily. However, what I would like is I would like for it to be someone who has not done a royal romance. I think it'd be really
somebody
cool.
new.
Yeah, I would like for it to be somebody. They could be somebody in Hallmark, but somebody or whatever world it might be. But it'd be really
so we haven't
nice.
seen, because we do tend to see the same people in the same type of roles, because they're so good at it, right? But it's nice to mix it up. That's why it was so great to have Lillian in Christmas Camp, because it was her first. So she hadn't been in any other Hallmark. I mean, of course, you love our Hallmark darlings, both the men and the women, and we love seeing them. And that's why we watch, because we kind of feel like we know them and we love them. But I love seeing a new person get a shot and bring a freshness, to it. And that's why I mentioned other networks too, because a lot of times with budget, you have to look at that. And I'm working on a Christmas feature right now that is about 60 times a budget of what a Hallmark movie would be, because it has a musical component and a fantasy component. And so, it would not be a home on Hallmark because the budget is so much bigger and it has a big cast and and all of that. And, there's such constraints. That's why I say it really depends on where it lands of who you'd want to cast it. And so I've always told by people, when you write, don't think budget. But now that you ask that you do think, well, who am I going to pitch this? Where can this story land? I just still write the story that's in my heart, and then hope that it finds the right home, the right director, the right actors that will love it as much as I do. My job is to do what I'm so thankful you said that you connected. My job as a writer is to get you, let's say you're the director reading it, saying, I love it, I see it, I want to take it, because the director will take it to another level. And then the producers, and they'll change it a lot. And that's okay. I have no problem with that, because that's our job. My job is to tantalize you to get it. And then I stay on board to write it. So the director might say, I don't want a dog, I want a cat. I want a prince, a little prince, not a princess. We need to shoot it here, not there. And then my job as a writer is to make those changes. Like I say, if you want to be precious with your story, write a book. And that's why I don't need therapy as a screenwriter, because I can write books. That's my therapy.
Right, exactly.
So if there's a scene I love that gets cut, instead of having like, oh, so sad, I'm like, I'll just go write the book, But I know, how much time do we have? Because I want to make sure we get to our questions. I want to make sure we give everybody a chance.
I was just going to open it up to questions. That is exactly what we were going to do.
I can't believe, how did the time go so fast? And I can stay on a little bit past, as long as you have the Zoom time. I just want to make sure to get everybody's questions.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, and I actually have time too, because I have a little bit of time here too. Kat does say that she's got Christmas Ever After, and she's reading that now.
Oh, good.
So she does have it. But so let me just open it up here. If does anybody would anybody like to come on screen?
I see Paula. She's
Okay.
waving. Paula.
All right, let me get her in the spotlight here, and you can unmute.
Okay.
All right.
Hello.
Hi, Paula. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you also. I want to know is how does writing for a streaming service like Netflix different from writing for an official TV like Lifetime or Hallmark?
That's a great question, because remember when I wrote A Christmas Prince, I thought it was going to Hallmark, and there's definitely rules and formulas and you know, just kind of parameters that you need to follow. And Netflix has their own, Hulu, Amazon, everyone has their own. So the first thing is you really need to write the story that's in your heart and you want to do, but it will be changed. If you're thinking Hallmark, you do have to consider budget. You can't have 15 billion foreign locations because they're shot in a couple of weeks. So you do have to know some of those. Hallmark, Lifetime, you know, GAC Family, you know, those type of things. They're all in a certain budget. And so you want to be smart about that. And if you're going to create a world like a Harry Potter world, then you know that is going to go to a motion picture. That could be Sony Pictures. That could be Netflix. Netflix has different tiers of budgets of where they go. So I always tell people, and actually people tell me, the producers, they say, write it the way you want, and then hopefully a home will be found. But if you're really wanting Hallmark or Netflix or GAC Family, or if that's really your target, then I say watch those movies. And there are formulas there. I mean, and it's a good thing. It's just like our romance books, boy meets girls, a lot of things get in, or guy, you know, vice versa. A lot of things get in the way, and then they get together at the end. So we always know in a romance, they're going to get together in the end. But the trick is, how do we tell an engaging story that people care about? But if you're a writer and you really care about one, like when I wrote A Christmas Prince, I wrote it in what I thought was the Hallmark style, because that's where I thought it was going. So when it ends up going somewhere else, then changes have to be made. And, you know, sometimes a little, and sometimes a lot, if it switches to where you think it's going to go. So if all of a sudden a Royal Christmas Fairy Tale, I found out it wasn't going to go to a big budget, it's going to go somewhere else, I would have to take a lot of things out and make adjustments to make sure it would fit that budget. Hope that answered your question.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Anybody raising hands? Let's see, hands.
Just a minute. Yes, because I've got Timmy over here. She has a question. So let me unmute her. Okay.
I should look in the chat too. So much more fun. Oh, look at all these fun things. Hi, everybody. Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the chat.
Oh, yeah, yeah. So Timmy, you can go ahead if you'd like.
Yes. So my question, when you talked about your crime reporter background, it got me thinking, would you ever consider combining your romantic novels with a little bit of crime fiction, kind of like a Christmas Camp murder mystery?
Yes, that's so funny that you asked that. So when I first met the executives at Lifetime, as you know, their slate, if you watch them, they do true crime. They do a lot of what they call women in jeopardy, true life stories, you know, where there is crime. And, you know, that's such a popular, especially mysteries and things like that. And I know they asked if I would not combine the two like you're asking, but if I would be wanting to write crime stories. Because I lived in that world so long, unless it's an uplifting, like a underdog that, you know, makes good, I just don't want to live in a world, meaning living in it, meaning when I write it, I'm living it, kind of like an actor's role, you know, when they take on those roles where they are POWs or they're, you know, these roles, they have to live like that for years sometimes when they're making these movies. And so I haven't wanted to go anywhere dark for sure. I've been there, done that in my real life, but adding a mystery would be fun. And with the Royal Christmas Fairy Tale at the end, you know, there is still this missing, I won't say element for people, you know, there's something missing. And so I got no spoilers. The book just came out. Yeah, I behaved myself, but I left it open where there could be, the next one could have some mystery, a little bit of, you know, crime and a little bit more if I could do a sequel. It's hard about people say, are you going to do a sequel? And you never know, you wait and see. I was with HarperCollins and I've self-published these last 2 books. I started a publishing company during the pandemic only to make sure they could come out to you guys. And that meant that while you can order them online and Amazon and all of that, they're not, my last 2 books aren't actually in bookstores. even though they're with Barnes and Noble, you have to order them online and get the book that way. But no books could hardly get in bookstores anyway because of the supply chain and COVID. But a lot of the traditional publishers like HarperCollins were delaying books by a year or two. And my whole idea is to have a book out every year for you guys. Like, I have not started this next year's, but January is when I start, and I try to write the entire thing. It's like a full immersive, like 10-hour days, the whole month of January. So I got a big, task ahead, and I'm trying to make some decisions like what you just asked to make it. My books are very much, the first books are very much in the Hallmark style, which I love, but I also want to stay current, just like Hallmark is doing, right? Stay current, stay fresh, and write that. I won't be writing probably 2 gay characters because I am not gay, and I don't feel that would be authentic for me to write about something that's not who I am. I did want to write a story that had a lot of Mexican traditions because my grandparents lived in Mexico and I partaked in that. So I know them authentically, but I was told, because that's not my heritage, that right now there's a lot of sensitivity toward that. So they want to save the writers of the heritage to write that. So I'm still going to be writing stories that are authentic to me and my background and who I am, but I want to see diversity because I want to see a world, and I don't want to, talk any politics. And some people have very strong feelings one way or the other, but just answering about, like, for me, I think I will always just try to write really authentic. And I can promise you they're going to always be uplifting and feel good, because the world's very dark for a lot of us. And even when we have good things, it's been a tough couple years. And I want to write a book that you can escape into, that your children, I have people that read Christmas Camp, with their grandkids that are 13 or 14, or, that multi-generational. I want them to still have that kind of story. The biggest compliment is when somebody says, I'm reading it again or watching Christmas Prince again with my family, because then I feel like that just almost, makes me choke up, because I feel like if I can be a tradition, like what got me through some hard times, when I was growing up and everything, that would make me really happy. So that was a long answer, but thank you for asking that, because I'm actually going through in my mind right now, asking myself a lot of those questions. So that was a very good question.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Okay. And we do have, this would be a fun one. We've got, look at how much fun Pamela is. Look at how she looks.
My goodness. What do you have? Look at that. That's so cute.
I'm an elf.
I love that. Oh my goodness. So cute.
So we actually met in RomaDrama, but it was just briefly.
Yeah,
when we were there in Nashville. So it's nice to see you. So I have a question. So I was in Bosnia probably the same time frame you were.
Wow.
And have you ever thought about, because that's also a very romantic country, if you're able to pay attention, a lot of beautiful history there.
Oh, absolutely.
Like Archbishop Ferdinand was there in Sarajevo, and where some of the war started. So have you ever thought about maybe taking some of that experience and combining that with a Hallmark movie where, like, you have a woman or a girl meets the GI or whatever that rescues her, that then brings her a story like that? Because I saw a lot of that happening when I was there.
Absolutely. I mean, I would love that. Now, I can't speak for Hallmark because, there's new management, and it changes like literally daily of what they're looking for and what they're not, and that's kind of our job to try and stay on top of that. But I do believe one of their most popular movie ever was The Christmas Card, right? Where we had a veteran come home. I know it's one of my favorites. That story is beautiful. And I always have a military component in my stories because I dated a wonderful man when I was living in Rapid City, South Dakota. I was a TV anchor. He was a B-1 bomber pilot at Ellsworth Air Force Base. Yeah. And that was the first time I was really close to the military family. And I really saw how the families took care of them and what it was like when the men and women were deployed and what the families left at home. So years later, when I went to Bosnia, I was embedded with troops, and they were they were Army Reserve troops. And it was even more because they, the weekend warriors, they called themselves. And there were so many stories I saw there because they weren't full-time soldiers and the way things were different. And I was there when the first peacekeeping troops went into Bosnia. President Clinton, December 19th, because it was my birthday, so I remember the date exactly, said, we are sending US troops into Bosnia. And I was there 4 days later. So I was the first journalist in the world embedded with troops, and that would have been in 95.
Yeah, 95, and I was there in 96, so I was there just after you.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think any story we can do that shows our military men and our women and what they do to honor them. I know I wouldn't want to do the violence part of it, and it's like a balance of, but maybe the love story of there's a funny story. Oh, go ahead,
Yeah,
please.
I mean, there's a beautiful component. When I was there, we actually went and rebuilt a playground, and that's where we met a lot of people.
I love
And the
that.
kids
And that,
came together and rebuilt it. And that's the
I,
thing I'm thinking of. Something like that would be beautiful.
yeah, I actually love that idea. I was in Malawi and I volunteered for a month in Malawi at an orphanage and met so many different people, whether it's Doctors Without Borders. And that would be a wonderful place to volunteer. But what you're saying, people that come in after the devastation and destruction and go in, and it's a war zone where things have been blown up literally, but two lives can find each other and there can be hope and promise and something really positive that can
new
come
life
out of
growth.
them.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Beautiful.
I like that a lot. And I'm actually right now literally brainstorming ideas. And I think that would be beautiful. And I would be blessed to be able to write it because it would be authentic, because I do have that experience. So Pamela, that is a very, very, I've always stayed away because people have said about the soldiers coming home, you know, but I love the idea of it being, and oh, you know what I did? I could actually incorporate it when I was in Bosnia, the Family Readiness Program, because at that time it was before all of this, Zoom and all of this, they couldn't reach them, the soldiers. So all the families met and gave me letters from home, and you can only take, you know, your duffel. And I was going to find the soldiers that were already in country. And so hoping to find them. And so I had this little backpack and I had letters, and I still was telling the story the other day to someone in the media, what was one of my best Christmas memories. Not that I had forgotten it, but it's hard to say when you have a favorite, but getting there and finding my soldiers, you know, when I was in Bosnia and having letters from home and delivering them at Christmas and seeing their reaction to this precious letter.
That's emotional.
I think there could be something about someone that goes to deliver letters or finds a letter. I have this story in my head, you guys. I was at the post office, true story, really quick, because then you might know, oh, I remember when she talked to us about this. So I just was asking, tell me some stories. You know, I'm always looking for inspiration. First of all, he told me the Hope Diamond, the actual Hope Diamond, millions and millions, was sent to the Smithsonian via US mail, regular old mail, like no security guards. It was crazy. I thought that was nuts. But what he told me is he goes, yeah, one of his buddies, when they were, I think it was Iraq, they got mail, and he said, but it was delayed like 30 years. And it was a letter that was supposed to arrive somewhere in the US, but it landed in Iraq with them. They have no idea. I said, well, what happened? Did you open? He goes, it's illegal to open someone's mail. So they did not, they sent it back. But wouldn't it be amazing if there was a letter that came in the mail call for the soldiers, and there's a letter that's like 30 years old and the person wants to go back and, you know, find that. That's a little bit like a Christmas card, even though it's a totally different story. But so I hear those stories like that, and I think this helps me. And I think, Ruth, what we should do, these are such a great group. When I'm strategizing, we should get people together and hear. So, because that's such great, I want to know what you want to read. Like, what stories do you guys want to read? I want to see a show of hands really quick. What we were just talking about with Pamela. Would you think a story of two people meeting in what was, we wouldn't have it be a war zone, but maybe recovery where they go back in, and two people meeting, you know, in that kind of a challenging environment? Wouldn't anyone think, maybe not even Christmas, but just a regular romance? Anyone? Okay. This really, you know what? This really is good, you guys. This helps me because it's such a sensitive topic. Well, you know what, Pamela? I just might be working on that then. I'm liking that. Thank you. Thank you for the great idea. I love it.
Oh my. Well, I have a feeling that you'd have no problem getting people to come and strategize with you, because I really had a good response when I put it out there. And then some of these people are Paul Green fans as well. Probably all of them are, more than likely.
Of course.
And
who is not a Paul Green fan? We love Paul.
I know. And so you have all of, so they have some great ideas. They're such great fans anyway. So I'm sure if you ever want to have a strategy session and you want,
I love that.
These people,
as a writer, we're so isolated. When I was a TV reporter, the one good thing about that is I was on the street every day. I mean, I'd be living in a live van with my photographer, and we would go wherever the story was breaking news. And I interacted with people every day. And I love that. And as a travel journalist doing my show, I traveled to 68 countries and I'm meeting people and traveling. But as a writer in this last 2 years, it's very solitary. And you get in your head where I want to tell stories I'm passionate about. And it's like, I'm literally on that, I'm transitioning where I want to bring in, I don't want to say more, I want to elevate my writing. I want to challenge myself. I want it not to be the same formulaic. I still want a love story. I still want to feel good, but I want there to be more realistic, real life, and something, you know, that brings us together. And so like what Pamela is talking about, I had thought about different ways, because I literally made a list like, well, what are my skills? What have I done? Write what you know. You know, I'm not going to be writing about probably a full character being a nurse unless I have time to research, or a close friend or a family member, because I want it to be authentic. And I'm very blessed that I've done a lot, and I've been around a lot of people. So there's pretty much, you know, I feel good about what I can write. But I'd like to be able to use my experience and what I experienced with the soldiers, something authentic. I think that would be really special. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to be thinking about that now.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Pamela was just continuing. She said she did 2 tours in Bosnia, one in, is it
Tuzla?
Oh, that's it.
Tuzla.
Okay. I'm reading without my glasses. That's why.
One in
Sorry.
Tuzla, which is the American base, and then
Yep.
the other in Sarajevo, which was run
Okay.
by the British.
I just wanted to ask you really quick, because, and I know we have to move on, and Pamela, you and I we'll have to have a chat after Christmas about that for sure. But first of all, so were you in the armed forces yourself, or
I was
were
in
you
the
a
Navy. I was
the
in the
Navy?
Navy.
Oh,
But
well, first, thank you.
I worked for the NSA at the time when I was in Bosnia. We were doing the
Oh.
intel.
Oh, wow. Well, thank you, first of all, for serving, and for all of you, if you have military family connections, husbands, wives, anything, please. I mean, like I said, that's why I did what I did, because I wanted to tell their stories. So thank you for everything, Pamela, that you did. And I think that it is a great idea to find a way. And I was supposed to go back into Afghanistan with my Apache helicopter unit to go back into the cities where they were doing rebuilding schools. And I was scheduled to do that, and they canceled it. And it's one of the reasons I quit my whole career of TV, because I said, if I can't do the stories that are important, I'm going to go cover spas. You know, I was kind of kidding. I was very, you know, I was mad. I just got out of the war zone. There'd been a bombing. We'd lost people, and I wanted to go back immediately. I had a documentary I needed to finish, but I wanted to get back in there with my soldiers. And when I was told I couldn't go for safety reasons, you know, you don't tell a journalist. I mean, I was just like, oh, and my management had changed. And I just was like, I'm not going to stay and just cover car chases. You know, I wanted to make a difference. So maybe there's a good way to incorporate those stories, but thank you for serving. I just wanted to make sure I said that. So thank you. Okay, Ruth. Okay, anyone else?
Is there anyone that I'm missing? Is there anybody else who wanted to ask a question? I know
we ran over our time, and people probably have schedules to get to.
Right. I know. Well.
Yep.
Again,
who has Christmas cookies to make? Christmas cookies, anyone? Or did you already make Christmas cookies?
Yeah.
Yeah. I see Vivian. She's smiling. I bet you make good Christmas cookies, Vivian.
Oh. It looks like Amy made good Christmas. It's like, so yeah, people are making Christmas cookies. It's getting to be that time.
I can't believe we could do like a speed round. I promise, because I know I answer really long. We could do like 4 or 5 questions really fast. Like it could be silly things. So we could get it in. I'll promise to do speed round, Karen. Put on speed round. Wait. Okay. So if anybody has a question,
so if anybody has a question, you can actually unmute yourself and just ask the question. I don't even have, if you want.
Because we're wrapping up, guys. Is everybody there?
Your chance. This is your chance.
Everyone's so shy.
Okay,
I'm going to ask everybody unmute for a second for me before
I
you go.
I have a quick question.
Timmy.
Okay.
So how much say do you have in the storyline when they're making the movies? What changes can you alter, or how does it work?
That's a great question. So when they buy the script, they own it. Everything's theirs. They can change every single bit of it if they want. It's now theirs. And you hope as a writer that they tell you and you communicate. They might say, take out the dog, and you say, but here's why the dog's really important. You know, you got to kind of be a salesperson and explain, but the bottom line, it's their movie. They own it. And your best prayer is that you get to stay on it and make the changes with them so you can stay on your project. Many writers are replaced. They'll bring on a writer at the end. They'll bring on a dialogue writer. They'll bring on a comedy writer. Very many movies that you see have had multiple writers on them. So the short version is you have zero control unless you put it, unless even like the big writers that you see, they might have special clout because they're very big, and you kind of like actors, right? And you want to make them happy. But you hope they wouldn't be buying it if they didn't like the story. You hope, right? So there's not too many changes, but you got to go in and know that it is their story. It's like you build a plan for a house and they're going to actually build the house, and you got to make changes that go with it. And your job as a writer is to be there and do that for them. So, but then, like I said, if you're really sad, just go write the book. Easy.
Great idea. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else really quick? I think that we're good, right? But
anybody?
well,
Kelly,
that's great, you guys.
Kelly, did you want to ask a question? No, like nobody.
No questions. No.
Well, I feel. First of all, let's look at the time, because I want to be conscious of it. It is Christmas, you guys, and you guys need to go. But I just wanted to say really quick before you wrap up, Ruth, I want to thank you all. You have been a very good Christmas present to me. My family's in Seattle. I'm not going to be able to be with them this Christmas. So I was really honored that Ruth asked me to join you, and you have been like my family. And this has meant the world to me to share with you, and that you took the time. So thank you. I wish you all a healthy and hopeful and happy holidays and New Year. And be sure to connect with me on social media. If I don't get back to you right away, I have to move in the next week as well before New Year's. So if you have questions, I say wait until the first of the year, I'll get back to you. And in case you haven't followed me, if you go on my website, Karen at KarenSchaler.com, my name, and you go to the book and it says free gift, it's a DIY Christmas camp guide, and it's a free download. And I don't know, I think it's up to 10 or 11 pages. It has the recipes I'm talking about. So if you don't have the books, that's okay, but you can get the recipes. It has activities, and sign up for the newsletter, because I do giveaways, especially in the new year. And that way we'll hear if I'm taking Pamela's advice on this novel, or maybe I'm usually working a year ahead, but please connect that way. I'd love to see you all. And I wanted just to make sure I thanked you.
You should do a Christmas camp in Kansas City. You know, Hallmark this year, so.
I want to do a Christmas camp in every city. I really want it to be, it kind of combines my travel therapy, right? What I love with my travel. What travel Christmas camp do you need? Do you want a snowy one? Do you want a warm weather one? And then you would pick depending on. So my goal is to do many once this hopefully.
Come to Ottawa, Canada. You can do one in the snow.
I love Ottawa. As a matter of fact, I'm including right now. Oh, you guys, I want you to keep an eye on my social media, because this weekend, I don't know what's going on this weekend. Oh, Christmas. But I'm going to be posting my personal connections to different towns that feel like you're in a Hallmark movie. And one of them's in Canada.
Yeah, well, I live about 20 minutes outside of Elmont, which is where they film a lot
oh
of
my
Christmas
goodness.
movies.
They do. And that's it. They find a favorite town, and they literally have a storage container there, and they bring out the garland and the same post and the same tree, and they do it again.
Yeah,
Same
I
with
met Paul Green when he was here in September.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, my niece lives in Elmont, so.
Oh, you're so lucky.
Yeah, I go to Elmont all the time. I live in a small town called Arnprior, and they filmed Christmas on Wheels here last summer.
Oh my goodness.
And my place is actually in one of the scenes.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah.
I have to take some screen grabs and post it. My house.
Exactly.
Is there anybody else? And before we wrap up for Christmas?
I don't know. I think we probably
okay.
Looks like so. I want to thank my wonderful audience. First of all, you guys really did make this very special, because it's something new. So thank you for being flexible, for being willing to be here, because I really appreciate it. And I know that my guests appreciate it, and you'll be hearing more I'll be doing more of these as we get going here. And Karen, I just want to thank you so much. I am so grateful that you were able to come on, and it's been wonderful getting to know you. I mean, especially there was that connection. I really meeting you in person. I think it really did make.
Well, you're family. You were family before, Ruth, but you're family now. I feel like we have now a more personal connection, and hopefully I'll see you guys all at RomaDrama when we have it this summer, and then we can even take it to the next level. But we're all connected now, and that's what's important.
That's right. So thank you all for being here. I had truly enjoyed it. Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
And thank you all for just being such incredible human beings.